have to be looking out for some obvious signs of misalignment. For example, you don't have the clarity around ownership. And then it's also about reduced productivity, delivering on time, you're missing deadline, there is decision paralysis.
And I've been in that situation where they're like endless meetings and we're still not landing. At some point, people are just like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. So that's a big problem. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Team Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Amara, and on this podcast, I share best practices and strategies on how to bring alignment to teams. And joining me in today's episode is none other than my very good friend, Sudeepta Sinha. Welcome, Sudeepta.
Hi, Amara.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. We're going to be talking about the cost of team misalignment. Well, before we jump in, I would like you to introduce yourself to the audience for people who are joining in later on. Yeah, let's hear a little bit about you.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, Amara. I'm so thrilled to be sharing ideas on this very relevant topic with you today. My name is Sudeepta Sinha. I've been working as a learning and development expert specialist for the last 15 years. And my main area of interest and passion in life is to influence the way people learn and the way people find their learning style. So yes, this is what I do.
Thank you so much. And when I think about learning, it's also a very critical part of a team and the health of a team. So I know that you have lots of ideas and experience around teams. We've all led teams at one point, been part of teams at one point. So team alignment is something that both are very aware of and passionate about too. I'm very passionate about that as well. And for me, what was really important in terms of deciding the theme for the day is that I feel like a lot of times people may not be aware of the cost of not starting with relations in the workplace, like starting with the nucleus of the team, like understanding the relationships people have with one another before the task. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I read a book recently by Patrick Lencioni. I think it's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And this quote really struck me because it talks about the team being inherently dysfunctional because it's made up of, a team is made up of imperfect human beings. And when I read this quote, I was like, oh yes, of course. It makes absolute sense. People should recognize that teams are inherently dysfunctional. And so my question to you, Sudeepta, is how does this strike you? And if teams are actually dysfunctional, what do we do?
Yeah, so, well, this resonates very, very much with me. This thing about inherently dysfunctional. Of course, you have put together a group of individuals and you want them to work as a cohesive unit. So this transformation just doesn't come just like that from anywhere. Someone needs to cautiously, continuously work on this transformation. So that's the secret sauce, as per me, that how do you transform these group of individuals into a well-functioning, cohesive unit?
And I think it's so important because it just goes to show that teams, as they are formed, will not work optimally until they've kind of sat down and done the personal homework, right?
Yeah,
otherwise, like if you're not working on very specific elements that enable you to work well together, those problems will show up time and time again. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you that we need to figure out a way to bring that cohesion to really ensure that the team is working optimally and delivering on its results. We cannot focus on tasks first. If you focus on tasks first, the problems of dysfunction will show up even more than you can imagine. Yeah. Sudeepta, you want to say something?
Definitely. And for me, it's also important that who is responsible for identifying this need for alignment. Now you have a team at hand, and then who should be responsible to establish this initial setup, set the stage for making sure that there is an aligned team that we are looking at?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. I think that it's both entities, like the line manager, of course, and the team. The line manager definitely it's on them to take the initiative to have the conversations, right? To really set the tone, to be very explicit and intentional about how the work will look like. But before that, even on a more personal level, like how do people engage with one another and how do they show up in the workplace, and to ensure that they're working well together. Because like I said, if we just focus on content of the work without necessarily understanding how we work together, like our personalities and stuff, we're in trouble. So the line manager manager must have that conversation and bring that to the fore. The team members, however, have to take it forward. They need to commit to it and then bring it forward. Yeah.
Commit to and maintain what has been decided together as a shared vision, as a shared purpose, and what do we want to achieve together. So to stick to that, you also have to have your inner discipline to make sure you are aligned with the rest of the team members.
Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant you mentioned that, because sometimes misalignment creeps in and people may not even know that they're already veering into the world of misalignment, right? Like you mentioned, because you may be aligned, let's say in Q1, everyone, early days, right? In the year, first quarter, you're like looking at the plan, the ambitions, the performance plan and all that. Then the second quarter comes along and then there are deadlines that are not being met, things are happening. And before you know it, there's misalignment because, maybe there's some conflicting priorities and other things that could easily come into the frame. And I'm wondering, what are some telltale signs of misalignment? When we think about misalignment, what should team members and team leads, what should they be thinking about if they see these things showing up in their ways of working?
So we have to be looking out for some obvious signs of misalignment, right? At some point in teams where we feel, who owns this? For example, you don't have the clarity around ownership. And then it's also about reduced productivity, delivering on time, you're missing deadlines. So there are some obvious telltale signs. And there is decision paralysis. You're not able to really decide on simple stuff. All these these are indicators and can give you the first signs of misalignment.
That's a good one. That's a brilliant one, actually. And I've been in that situation where they're like endless meetings and we're still not landing. And I think that just brings a lot of frustration because at some point people are just like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. And so that's a big problem. So if you're a line manager and you start seeing these elements in your ways of working, know that you're veering into misalignment. It can really have some major consequences down the line. Another area of misalignment would be people checking out. And I think when you start seeing people check out, that is this quiet where people are just doing the barest minimum. Maybe they're not even talking. At this point, they're not really engaged. You have a meeting and everyone is saying, great, that sounds great.
The attitude, and no one is really debating ideas or expressing views. This could also be a red flag. Definitely team leaders should try and look out for these things and then do the course correction in time.
Absolutely. I agree. In essence, if you're a line manager, people will already share with you, like team members might be saying, well, I thought person A is doing that, but I thought I was supposed to do that. And they might just share that, or maybe share that amongst themselves. Like, what's going on? Like, I thought I was supposed to do this. And that kind of general confusion can cause a lot of problems. So if you're a line manager and you're seeing these little things, we've just shared some telltale signs that your team may be out of alignment. If you're seeing these things, make sure that you start thinking about ways to bring alignment. And I definitely would like us to also share what are some things that we can do to bring alignment. But we can also share what are some things or some behaviors that would tell us that we are aligned as a team. When you see this, then you should know, okay, I think we got this under control.
So I think when you feel palpable trust amongst team members, people are able to give and receive feedback, and they're able to debate ideas. As a team, you are productive, and you are making decisions, things are getting done. So all these are signs of a healthy team.
I love that. Absolutely. There's healthy debate. People can speak up as well. That's another one. I also feel like when there's psychological safety and people speak up, then you're able to increase productivity because you're solving problems. You're able to pinpoint those problems, right? I love that you talked about feedback, because teams that are misaligned are usually very competitive. They're just trying to protect themselves and protect their images. And as a result, they may not be as responsive or as supportive. In a team that's aligned, they actually crave the support. They crave the feedback. And that could be very powerful, because when we listen, we get feedback. It's just another way to help us either improve on what we're doing or course correct. So I absolutely agree. One other thing also is there's a shared purpose and priorities are very, very clear. So basically there's alignment on the priorities. I think a lot of times in misaligned teams, like everyone has different priorities. Maybe they think they're all aligned, but then they come to find out that they're not actually aligned. So an aligned team is one where everyone literally has a very clear understanding of what the priorities are and they know exactly what role they are to play. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And there are many exercises team leaders can conduct to know whether the priorities are equal by different team members or not. There are super simple exercises that can reveal that. Also, I want to add that every day you come to work, if you have this sense of belonging that I have respect, I trust my team members, my views will be heard, I can freely propose new ideas, feeling a sense of belonging to your team, there are endless benefits in my mind.
I love how you talked about belonging there, because what is alignment? Alignment is that we are working together. And I think a product of alignment is belonging, because you do feel like you're part of something special. You feel like you're part of a team that has a mandate, and that based on your own skill set, you're going to do what you can to bring that forward. And imagine if every team member really felt that way. Like, the sky is the limit, really. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Belonging and belongingness in the team is a crucial indicator.
We also look at the wider organization. What is an organization in the end made up of? It's a set of teams. If, let's say, one team is misaligned, another team is misaligned, let's say several teams in an organization is misaligned, you are actually setting up an organizational culture. So you were talking about the long-term effects. So you cannot just look at it in a disjointed fashion because, okay, one team is misaligned. Over time, you will see that this is what your organizational culture will get to be known as. So we have to be very mindful of the long-term effects of misaligned teams.
Absolutely. And let's not even go towards costs. I mean, what about the cost of it? Possibility of toxicity just growing is just tremendous, because people burn out more, people take sick leaves, productivity goes down, there's low morale, people are just not happy, they're dreading work. It's a no-go. So I definitely agree with you. It makes sense to really go all in to avoid that. So how do we then bring about alignment? I'm a big supporter of creating team agreements. I actually have a consulting company called Ignite to Transform. And one of the products that it's a team coaching product that we support teams across the world with. It's called Align and Thrive. It's an Align and Thrive model that really seeks to support teams by helping them have conversations specifically around 6 main pillars. The pillars are communication, collaboration, decision-making, values and culture, well-being, and conflict management. I believe that when teams get together and they're able to talk about who they are and how they function, what makes them come alive in the workplace, and they also share how they like to communicate or what communication model works best, or maybe set down the rules around how to collaborate in teams, or even how decisions are made and who's invited to the decision-making process, and kind of the whole culture around that. Teams are able to have these conversations. It really brings that level of connection or connectedness, because if a team is able to communicate well, collaborate well, decisions are made that's very inclusive, and the values and the culture really mirrors the values and cultures of the team member and also of the organization, and that there's an intentional culture around well-being and how to promote well-being and resilience in the face of stress in the workplace, as well as a clear understanding of conflict and how they also present in the face of conflict, and what are some things that the team will do to prevent or mitigate that. I think if a team is able to answer these questions, they already have a great step in the right direction in terms of how they work well together.
I see most of Align and Thrive model covers most of the key aspects of well-aligned teams. Yes.
I think that it connects, so when we talk about communication, you have both worked in leadership and development. We know that feedback is sometimes so difficult. Giving corrective feedback, having that difficult conversation, sometimes line managers fail to actually have regular check-ins. So one thing that we say is alignment is not, or even having a team alignment workshop is not a one-off thing. Alignment is something that happens ongoing. And one way to make sure that's ongoing is by having this regular check-ins and feedback cycles. Yeah.
It's not a one-off effort, Amara. Team alignment is a constant ongoing effort that needs time. It's not like some people have a project kickoff meeting and that's it. But there are so many moments that matter when it comes to team alignment. If you think of moments, let's say a new project, has arrived, or the leadership has changed. The team has gone through restructuring. There have been feedback cycles. There are so many moments that will matter where you'll have to lean on back to what team agreement or team culture you're talking about. So definitely not a one-off event.
Well, like what you said there, Sudeepta, about the different teams may find themselves in where they might have to have that alignment. And I think it's extremely important, especially when there's a change in the team. That could be a good place to begin. If it's a new person that joins the team, it's just letting them come in and say, hey, this is our team alignment charter. It's extremely important that they come together. This is who we are, and who are you in the space of this team, and how can we work best together? How do you like to work? Taking that time to really understand the personalities and the ways of working of each other, I think is extremely important, because that brings that alignment and also allows for the line manager to once again establish expectations.
Absolutely. Everyone to kind of have a common consensus around how often do we meet, what kind of tools do we use, how do we like to receive feedback, and how do we echo our successes. Everything, like if we talk about it, this is what is going to eventually set the team culture, and for everyone to be on the same page.
Absolutely. I mean, to really have this conversation, I really think it's important. People may overlook it and think, we don't have the time for that. But the thing is, if you're not going to be explicit as a line manager, for example, or very intentional about who you are as a team and how you work together, especially using these pillars, you will start the job, you will start the tasks, but you start having those issues come up. You start having problems with each other.
Of effort, you will start seeing siloed work, you will start seeing frustration, burnouts in the team members. So definitely a big chunk of that responsibility lies on the team leader's shoulders.
Absolutely. Yeah. You just start seeing all these different elements we shared before. This role confusion, duplication of effort. I've been there, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to sit down and set the tone. What are our expectations as a team? Okay, I'll give an example. I was running a workshop once, and the major problem was that when it comes to emails, people were responding to emails differently. So for example, someone might send an email and say, hey, this is really urgent, please respond, right? But the other person that's gotten the email will not respond. They might not even check in whatsoever. So this particular team were really having problems with just something as simple as email, like not responding to emails. And that was already causing a lot of havoc in the team, because then you start thinking, like, am I not important enough? Like, if I send you an email and ask for your help, like, why are you taking 2 days, 3 days to respond to me? But because there's been no established expectation, the person receiving the message might think, oh, I have time, right? Meanwhile, the other person is expecting something right away, right? So, yeah.
Also, it might also go to show something about your interpersonal relationship with this colleague of yours. Do you have the approachability? Can you just ask them, or there is some kind of hesitation? All these things point to the team cohesion kind of lacking.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said. You all have to come together and decide. I'm telling you, like, there's so many basic things that could lead to chaos. I'm not joking. Like, literally, responding to email can cause frustration. So there should be some kind of norm around emails. Like, what is the turnaround time? Is 24 hours enough? When it's urgent, do you need to reach out via Teams or make a phone call, like, in a very explicit way? Because if you begin to make assumptions, you're just setting yourself up for undue frustration, and it's just not a good experience. So yeah, this is why team alignment, we might think, oh, it's not necessary. It is so important, because we humans are imperfect. It's so important. Yeah.
If we think back, we all have been in these kind of situations. I can definitely recollect once I was leading a team of instruction designers. We would have team meetings, and everyone would have like a yes attitude, that yes, this is fine, and and after 1 meeting, 2 meeting, 3 meeting, as a team leader, it started making me very nervous, that why is everyone just saying yes to everything and no one is debating ideas? What's going on? Why is no one wanting to have the black hat, or why is no one looking for icebergs and we are just sailing? Individual conversations with these team members, I was able to uncover underlying issues amongst team members. So that is the reason in teams, people are coming, they are seemingly disengaged, and there's lack of engagement, creativity, there's nothing really happening. And then you realize that it's because one person in the team feels that their ideas are not accepted, appreciated, or there's no tolerance amongst other team members. So that was, for me as a team leader, it was an immediate sign, wanting to correct this and improve team dynamics. Every meeting where we all are present together as a team, every such occasion matters. And that's why I say that team alignment, it's not a one-off effort. For team leaders, you have to constantly keep looking for signs, and that's when you're able to steer it.
No, absolutely. I actually agree with you, and great job pinpointing that and recognizing that and calling it out and trying to figure out a way to raise that issue so that whoever was feeling like insecure or just feeling the lack of support could come back and feel the support. The team agreement is one way we can hold each other accountable. When a team is able to come together and look at the pillars and decide how they want to work together and have commitments, that is, the team sets out to write down its commitments around communication, around decision making, collaboration, what to do around conflict management, the values, stress.
The pillars that you talk about, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are some of the commitments? What do they commit to doing or being in the face of the day-to-day engagement in the workplace? There are some commitments that they ascribe to. Bringing that up, maybe in a quarterly basis, could be helpful so that it's integrated in their ways of working. The last thing anybody wants to do is to draw up a charter or a team agreement and then forget it.
I also want to add that, which is again connected to the example that I just mentioned, because I realized that particular team member was also feeling that key results and achievements are not being publicly recognized. So when you want to go back to team agreements periodically, it's also good to involve team achievements, like celebrate them and publicly recognize them. It's a confidence booster.
I love that. You're absolutely right. And that even ties onto positive feedback, even taking one step further and incorporating positive feedback in the performance management of a team, like just showing appreciation for good work publicly. And also even in the private one-on-one check-ins, like, really going out to say, hey, I really appreciate you doing this. You did this at this one time and this is how it impacted the team, and well done. Like, please keep it up. Just these little touch points could be so powerful in us boosting the morale of a team. Yeah.
These are standard practices of conducting retrospectives, for example, where you touch upon what worked, what did not work, why it didn't work, what was so good about this project, what were some of your favorite moments, for example. So definitely these moments of coming together as a team, there's so much you can tap into its potential.
Absolutely. Well, Sudeepta, this is fun. This is so interesting. We've come to the end of the podcast, and it was so interesting because as I have these conversations, I'm getting new ideas and new impressions and perspectives, and it's really great to see also your lens. And thank you so much for joining. And I mean, to the audience who are listening, and maybe they'll be listening maybe next week or maybe today, who knows? What is one thing you would want them to take away from this conversation?
I would like to just sum it up in simple 3 words.
Yeah.
I feel clarity breeds confidence. The confidence to reach out to your team members, the confidence to know what is your task, what are your responsibilities, what is your role. All this confidence comes from clarity. So if you as a team member are seeking clarity, it's good for you. If you as a team leader are making sure there's clarity at all times amongst team members on what are we doing, what are our priorities, what are our key results, and all these factors. So for me, it would be clarity breeds confidence.
Ooh, I like that. Clarity breeds confidence. I'm going to write it down. That's a really good point there. And that clarity, of course, stems from the leader, right? By setting those expectations. And once everybody has a clear understanding of who they are and where they stand, it just gives you that extra confidence to speak and to share. For me, my one takeaway would be to remember that the team itself is inherently dysfunctional. That's what we need to remember, because we are imperfect people. Teams are made up of imperfect people. And for that reason, we have to be very, very intentional about how to create the ideal team and how to really support each other and create the kind of environment where people can feel supported. They can really feel that belonging. And of course, that the clarity and the expectations are so well defined that everybody's able to key in and do their best work. Because that's actually what makes people thrive in the workplace, when people feel that they're connected, that they're aligned. So yeah, this has been a very...
It's something I will dwell on for some on, because it even applies to families, Amara, it's such a important thing to think about. But having said that, a group of individuals, no matter how imperfect, they can come together to form a perfect cohesive unit, and that is possible. And that is what we in the organizations we work for, this is what we strive for, to imperfect individuals, perfect individuals, dysfunctional, they all can come together and still make these small cohesive units that form perfectly well together.
I love that. So out of that imperfection comes perfection, right? Oh, that's amazing. I think it's a perfect place to end our podcast. Thank you so much, Sudeepta, for coming on the show. And thank you everyone for listening and hanging in there. Please share your comments. Was there something we said that really struck you? Have you got an experience that you may want to share? Please kindly share in the comments section. And I promise I always respond. Thank you so much for joining in. And until next time, be well. Thank you very much, Sudeepta. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.